The colony ship Horizon Dawn floated dead in space. Its engines were silent. Smoke filled the corridors. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the damaged bridge and watched his crew dying around him. 200 people were on this ship, men, women, and children who had left Earth to start a new life. Now, they would never see another sunrise. Jake's uniform was torn and burned. Blood ran down his face from a cut on his forehead. He had been a ship captain for 15 years, but nothing had prepared him for this. The attack had come without warning. 3 alien warships had appeared from nowhere and opened fire. They belonged to the Zenth Collective, a race that controlled dozens of star systems in this region of space. Commander Lisa Brennan worked at the communications station. Her hands moved quickly over the controls. Even though half the buttons no longer worked, she was trying to send a distress signal to anyone who might help them. The ship's power was failing. They had maybe an hour before life support shut down completely. "Captain, I've got the emergency beacon working," Lisa said. Her voice was steady, but Jake could see the fear in her eyes. "Sending distress call on all channels now." Jake nodded. He looked around the bridge. His navigator, Danny Hayes, was trying to seal a hull breach with emergency foam. The medical officer, Helen Carter, was helping injured crew members. Everyone was doing their best, but it wasn't enough. The Zenth ships circled them like sharks waiting for prey to die. The distress message went out into space. Lisa's voice carried across the void, calling for help. "This is Earth vessel Horizon Dawn. We are under attack in the Kepler sector. Hull breached. Life support failing. 200 civilians on board, including 43 children, requesting immediate assistance. Please respond." The message repeated over and over. It traveled through space at the speed of light, reaching stations and ships across this part of the galaxy. Surely someone would hear. Surely someone would come. 3 light years away, on the massive space station called Olympus Prime, the message arrived. The Galactic Council received it within minutes. This council was made up of 9 different alien races. They had ruled this part of space for thousands of years. They made the laws. They kept the peace. They decided who lived and who died. Ambassador Quellen of the Vextar race read the distress call. He was tall and thin, with blue skin and 4 arms. His species had been part of the council for 2,000 years. He looked at the message and frowned. Humans again. Always getting into trouble. "Another human ship in distress," he said to his assistant. "They expand too quickly. They don't understand the dangers of space. This is what happens when Deathworlders leave their planet." The term Deathworlder was not a compliment. It meant someone who came from a dangerous planet. Earth was considered one of the worst planets in the galaxy. High gravity, extreme weather, deadly animals, dangerous diseases. Most civilized races came from gentle worlds where life was easy. Earth was a nightmare planet that somehow produced intelligent life. The council met to discuss the distress call. 9 ambassadors sat in a grand chamber. They had received the message from the Horizon Dawn. They knew people were dying. They had the power to send help. But they also knew who was attacking the human ship. The Zenth Collective was powerful. They had a large military fleet. They controlled important trade routes. The council had a treaty with them, even though everyone knew the Zenth were cruel. They raided smaller colonies and took what they wanted, but they were too strong to fight. So the council looked the other way. "We should ignore this message," Quellen said. "The Zenth are our allies. If we send help to the humans, it will damage our relationship with the collective." Director Venshara nodded. She was the head of the council, a being made of living crystal that reflected light in rainbow colors. "The humans are new to space. They have only been traveling to other stars for 100 years. They are aggressive and difficult. Perhaps this will teach them to stay in their own territory." One by one, the council members voted. Should they send help to the dying humans? Should they risk angering the Zenth? The vote was unanimous. No help would be sent. The humans were on their own. Back on the Horizon Dawn, Lisa waited for a response. The bridge was getting colder as life support failed. She could see her breath in the air. Danny had managed to seal the worst hull breach, but air was still leaking out. They had maybe 30 minutes left. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission," Lisa said. Hope filled her voice. Someone had heard them. Help was coming. Jake moved to her station. "Put it through." The message appeared on the screen. It was short and cold. "Your distress call has been received and logged. No assistance will be provided at this time. Galactic Council Command." Lisa stared at the screen. She read the message 3 times, hoping she had misunderstood. But the words were clear. No help was coming. The Council had received their call and decided to do nothing. "They're not coming," she whispered. "They heard us and they're not coming." Jake felt something break inside him. 200 people were going to die, and the ones who could save them had simply said no. He looked around the bridge. Young Danny was only 23 years old. Helen had 2 children waiting for her back on Earth. Lisa had gotten married just before this mission began. All of them would die here, and no one cared. "Open the military channel," Jake ordered. His voice was hard now, filled with anger. "The encrypted one that goes directly to Earth Defense Command." Lisa's fingers flew over the controls. "Channel open, sir." Jake began recording. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the colony ship Horizon Dawn. We are dying in the Kepler sector. The Zenth Collective attacked us without provocation. We sent a distress call to the Galactic Council. They received our message. They know we have children on board. They voted to do nothing. They have abandoned us because helping us might upset their alliance with our attackers." He paused and looked at his crew. These good people who had trusted him to keep them safe. "If anyone on Earth is listening, remember what happened here. Remember that we called for help and were ignored. Remember that the Council considers us expendable. We are dying. But we are sending you all our sensor data on the Zenth attack patterns. Maybe it will help you protect the next colony ship." Lisa sent the encrypted message toward Earth. It would take weeks to arrive, traveling through secure channels that bypassed the Council's monitoring, but it would get there. Earth would know what happened here. The Zenth ships were moving closer now. They had waited for the Horizon Dawn to die slowly, but now they prepared to finish it. Their weapons charged with deadly energy. Helen Carter came to the bridge, her medical supplies exhausted. "I've done all I can for the wounded, Captain. Some of them won't last another 10 minutes. Jake put his hand on her shoulder. "You did your best. We all did." 3 weeks passed before the encrypted message from the Horizon Dawn reached Earth. It arrived at Luna Station, the massive military base that orbited Earth's moon. Admiral Ryan Cooper was in a meeting when his assistant interrupted with urgent news. The message from Captain Jake Morrison had finally arrived. Ryan was a career military officer. He had joined the Space Force 30 years ago when humanity first made contact with alien civilizations. He was 52 years old now, with gray hair and tired eyes. He had seen humanity struggle to find its place among the stars. He had watched the Galactic Council treat humans like children who didn't understand the rules. He played the message in his office. Jake Morrison's voice filled the room, describing the attack, the distress call, and the Council's refusal to help. Ryan listened to every word. When the message ended, he sat in silence for a long moment. 200 people dead, children murdered, and the Council had simply voted to do nothing. Ryan called an emergency meeting of his senior staff. Within an hour, his best officers gathered in the secure conference room. Commander Amy Sullivan was his tactical expert, a brilliant strategist who could see patterns others missed. Colonel Brandon White handled logistics, making sure the fleet had everything it needed. Nicole Grant ran military intelligence, gathering information about potential threats. "You've all heard the message," Ryan said. The Council let our people die. They received the distress call and chose to ignore it. The Zenth killed 200 civilians, and the Council is protecting them. Amy pulled up star maps on the large screen. Red marks showed where the Zenth Collective controlled space. The Zenth have been raiding our outer colonies for 8 months. This isn't the first attack. We've lost 4 ships and over 600 people. Every time we complain to the Council, they tell us it's our fault for expanding too quickly. Brandon added more data to the screen. The Council sees us as primitives. We come from a death world, so they think we're violent and stupid. They'll never help us. They'll never protect our colonies. Nicole's intelligence reports painted a grim picture. The Zenth view us as easy targets. They take our resources, kill our people, and face no consequences. The Council has sent us messages warning us not to retaliate. They say it would violate galactic peace treaties. Ryan stood and walked to the window. He could see Earth below, the blue and green planet that had given birth to humanity. Billions of people lived there, and millions more had spread to colony worlds. All of them were vulnerable because the Council considered human lives worthless. "We've been preparing for this," Ryan said quietly. "We hoped it wouldn't be necessary. We hoped the Council would treat us fairly, but hope isn't enough anymore. Activate Operation Silent Thunder." The officers exchanged looks. They had all known this day might come. For 5 years, Earth had been building a secret military fleet. The Council thought humanity had maybe 50 warships. They had no idea about the hidden shipyards in the outer solar system. The Kuiper Belt was far from Earth, beyond Neptune, where few ships ever traveled. There, in the cold and dark, human engineers had built massive construction facilities. They had worked in secret, using encrypted communications and careful security. The Council's spy satellites couldn't see that far. Their intelligence agents had no idea what humanity was building. Commander Chris Baldwin ran the Neptune Yards, the largest of the secret facilities. He received Ryan's orders and immediately began final preparations. Chris was an engineer before he became a military officer. He understood ships better than anyone. He had designed many of the vessels in the hidden fleet. The fleet consisted of 300 warships. They were built using technology that Earth had developed independently, ignoring Council regulations that tried to limit human advancement. The Council wanted to keep humanity weak and dependent, so humanity had simply stopped sharing what they were working on. Patricia Stone was the chief engineer who had designed the new propulsion systems. She was young, only 31, but brilliant. The Council's ships used antimatter drives that were efficient but slow. Patricia had created something different, a hybrid system that used compressed matter from Jupiter's core. It made human ships faster than anything else in space. Gregory Mason designed the weapons. He was a quiet man who had studied physics on Mars before joining the military. The Council's warships used energy weapons, plasma beams, and particle cannons. Gregory had looked at the problem differently. He built kinetic weapons that fired solid projectiles at incredible speeds. Simple physics, but devastating. A chunk of metal moving at a fraction of light speed could punch through any shield. The crew members of the secret fleet came from all over human space. They were volunteers who understood what was at stake. Many had lost family members to Zenth raids. Others simply believed that humanity needed to stand up for itself. They trained in secret, learning tactics that the Council had never seen. Lieutenant Victoria Shaw commanded a stealth reconnaissance ship called Shadow Wing. For months, she had been mapping Zenth territory. Her ship was small and quiet, invisible to most sensors. She had recorded the locations of every Zenth military base, every supply depot, every weakness in their defenses. Victoria was careful and patient. She would drift in dark space for weeks, watching Zenth ships come and go. She recorded their patrol patterns, their communication frequencies, their standard responses to threats. The Zenth had grown lazy and arrogant. They believed no one would dare attack them. Marine Commander Nathan Price trained the assault forces. His job was to prepare soldiers for combat in space, where there was no air, no gravity, and death waited everywhere. Nathan had served in Earth's military for 20 years. He had trained special forces teams who could operate in any environment. The Zenth have never faced real soldiers, Nathan told his troops. They raid unarmed colonies. They attack civilian ships. They've never fought against someone who fights back hard. Nathan's soldiers came from Earth's toughest environments. Mountain troops who trained in thin air and freezing cold. Desert forces who operated in extreme heat. Deep-sea operators who worked under crushing pressure. All of them had one thing in common. They came from a death world, and it had made them strong. While the military prepared, the diplomats watched the Galactic Council. Intelligence Officer Nina Foster sat in the observer section of the council chambers on Olympus Prime. Officially, she was there to represent Earth's interests. Actually, she was gathering information and waiting for orders. Nina listened to the council debates. She heard Ambassador Quellen make jokes about human deaths. She watched Director Ven Shara dismiss human complaints with casual cruelty. She recorded everything and sent encrypted reports back to Earth. The council was meeting to discuss trade regulations when Nina received a coded signal from Admiral Ryan. Operation Silent Thunder was active. The fleet was moving. Within days, the galaxy would learn what happened when you ignored human distress calls. Nina kept her face neutral and continued taking notes. Let them think humans were weak and helpless. Let them think Earth would simply accept the loss of the Horizon Dawn. They would learn the truth soon enough. Back at Luna Station, Ryan watched the tactical displays. The secret fleet was leaving the Neptune yards. 300 warships, moving in perfect formation, heading toward Zenth space. They traveled through routes that avoided Council patrols. They used the new propulsion systems that left no trace for sensors to detect. Amy Sullivan had planned the operation down to the smallest detail. The Zenth Central Command is in the Arcturus Expanse. It's called the Spire of Dominion. They control their entire military from there. If we hit it hard enough, we can cripple their ability to raid our colonies. Brandon White confirmed that every ship had full supplies. Ammunition, fuel, spare parts, medical supplies. We can operate independently for 6 months if needed. We don't need Council supply stations. Nicole Grant provided the latest intelligence. The Zenth think they're safe. Their sensors haven't detected our fleet. They have no idea we're coming. Ryan studied the mission plan one more time. This was it. The moment that would change everything. Humanity would either prove itself as a power that deserved respect, or they would start a war they might not survive. All ships are in position, Chris Baldwin reported from the flagship. Awaiting your orders, Admiral. The human fleet traveled through deep space, far from any established trade routes. They moved in complete silence. Their communication systems shut down to avoid detection. Each ship knew its role. Each captain understood the mission. They would strike the Zenth without warning and show no mercy. Commander Chris Baldwin stood on the bridge of the flagship, a heavy cruiser called the Earth's Vengeance. He was responsible for coordinating the entire fleet during the attack. His tactical display showed all 300 ships in perfect formation. Years of secret training were about to be tested in real combat. Chris had been an engineer before the military recruited him. He had designed starship engines on Mars when he was younger. He understood how ships moved through space, how they consumed energy, how they could be pushed beyond normal limits. That knowledge had helped him create the fleet's battle tactics. The ships were organized into strike groups, fast attack wings with 50 small destroyers that could move quickly and hit hard, heavy cruisers that carried the big kinetic cannons, support vessels with electronic warfare systems, and stealth ships that would disable enemy communications before the battle even started. Dr. Karen Phillips had given a briefing before the fleet departed. She was Earth's leading expert on alien psychology, and she had studied the Galactic Council for years. Her conclusions had shaped the entire operation. The Council species evolved on easy worlds, Karen had explained. Their planets have gentle weather, weak gravity, and few predators. They never had to struggle for survival. War, for them, is about economics and politics. They fight with rules and limits. She had pulled up an image of Earth, showing storms and volcanoes and the deep ocean trenches. We evolved on a planet trying to kill us. Everything on Earth is dangerous. The weather can kill you. The animals hunt in packs. Even the bacteria are aggressive. We learn to fight back or die. That makes us fundamentally different from every other species in the Council. This difference was what the military called the Deathworld advantage. Humans were stronger because of Earth's high gravity. They could survive in conditions that would kill most aliens. They could think clearly under stress because stress was normal for them. And most importantly, they understood violence in a way that peaceful species never would. Captain Amanda Clark commanded one of the heavy cruisers, a ship called Earth's Resolve. She was 38 years old and had been in space combat before, fighting pirates in the outer colonies. But this was different. This was war against a major power. Amanda's sister had been on the Horizon Dawn. Her name was Sarah, and she had been a teacher bringing educational supplies to a new colony. Sarah had died when the Zenth opened fire. Amanda had volunteered for this mission the moment she heard about Operation Silent Thunder. "All weapon systems ready," her tactical officer reported. "Kinetic cannons loaded and charged." The kinetic cannons were Gregory Mason's masterpiece. Each round was a solid cylinder of compressed metals taken from Earth's mantle. They weighed 2 tons and were accelerated by electromagnetic rails to incredible speeds. When they hit something, the kinetic energy was devastating. No shield could stop them because they were just matter moving fast. Lieutenant Victoria Shaw and her stealth team had already left the main fleet. The Shadow Wing and 6 other reconnaissance ships had jumped ahead to Zenth space. Their mission was critical. They needed to disable the enemy's ability to call for help before the main attack began. Victoria's ship drifted through the dark like a ghost. They had shut down all systems except life support and passive sensors. The Shadow Wing was coated with materials that absorbed radar and radiation. To Zenth sensors, they were just another piece of space debris. "Target located," her sensor officer whispered. Ahead of them, barely visible, was a Zenth communications satellite. It was one of dozens that linked the Spire of Dominion to the rest of their empire. Victoria checked her tactical plot. The other stealth ships were in position near their own targets. "All teams report ready. Execute in 3, 2, 1, mark." The Shadow Wing fired a single missile. It was small and quiet, designed to look like a micrometeorite until the last second. It struck the communication satellite and released an electromagnetic pulse that fried every circuit. The satellite went dark. Across Zenth space, the same thing happened to 17 other communication nodes. The Zenth military network suddenly had massive gaps in its coverage. The Spire of Dominion could no longer coordinate with its outer bases. Victoria allowed herself a small smile. Phase 1 complete. The enemy is blind. Transmitting go signal to the Admiral. 3 light-years away, Admiral Ryan received the coded burst transmission. Victoria had done her job perfectly. The Zenth didn't know it yet, but they had already lost this battle. "All ships prepare for jump," Ryan ordered. "We go in fast and we go in hard. Remember your training. Remember who we're doing this for." The fleet jumped into hyperspace. When they emerged 30 seconds later, they were in the Arcturus expanse, surrounding the Spire of Dominion in a perfect sphere. 300 human warships appeared at once, their weapons already targeting the fortress and the Zenth ships nearby. General Kraith commanded the Zenth forces from his office in the Spire. He was reviewing reports of recent raids when his sensors officer ran into the room with panic on his face. "General, We have multiple contacts. Hundreds of ships just appeared in attack formation. Kraith rushed to the command center. The tactical displays showed red symbols everywhere. His computers were struggling to count them all. Where had these ships come from? No one traveled in fleets this large anymore. Modern warfare was about precision strikes, not massed formations. Identify those vessels, Kraith ordered. Sir, they're reading as human ships. All of them. Kraith felt confusion and then disbelief. Humans? The primitives from that death world? They barely had a military. The council report said they only had 50 warships total. This had to be a mistake. Then Admiral Ryan's voice came through on every frequency, in every language used in the galaxy. The message was broadcast so everyone could hear, including the council stations light years away. This is Admiral Ryan Cooper of the Earth Defense Fleet. You attacked the colony ship Horizon Dawn. You murdered 200 of our people, including children. The Galactic Council dismissed our distress call. You believed we were too weak to matter. You were wrong. Kraith finally understood. This was revenge. The humans had come for blood. He scrambled to respond, ordering his ships to battle stations. The Spire of Dominion had strong defenses and a garrison of 80 warships. He had trained for fleet combat. He could handle this. All ships, engage the enemy, Kraith commanded. Activate shields and return fire. But the humans didn't fight the way he expected. They didn't form battle lines or try to match his fleet ship for ship. Instead, they attacked like wolves hunting prey. Captain Amanda Clark's Earth's Resolve was the first to fire. The massive kinetic cannons launched their rounds at relativistic speed. Kraith's shields were designed to stop energy weapons, plasma, and lasers that could be deflected. They did nothing against solid metal moving at a fraction of light speed. The kinetic rounds punched through the shields like they weren't even there. They tore through the hull of a Zenth battleship and came out the other side, leaving a massive hole. The battleship's reactor went critical and exploded. Target destroyed, Amanda's tactical officer reported. Reloading cannons. All around the battlefield, the same thing was happening. Human kinetic weapons were cutting through Zenth ships with terrifying efficiency. The Zenth captains tried to return fire, but the human ships were incredibly agile. Commander Chris Baldwin led the fast attack wings in a coordinated strike. His destroyers moved in ways that should have been impossible. They rolled and weaved through enemy fire, pulling turns that generated forces strong enough to kill most alien crews. But human crews came from a high-gravity world. They were used to heavy forces. Their bodies could handle acceleration that would break the bones of species from gentler planets. They flew their ships like atmospheric fighters, dancing through space with aggressive maneuvers. Break left. Hit their command ship, Chris ordered. His wing of 20 destroyers swept around a Zenth cruiser and focused fire on the bridge. The kinetic rounds hammered the ship until it stopped moving. Inside his suit, Chris felt the G-forces pressing on him. His vision narrowed at the edges, but his Deathworld body adapted. His heart pumped harder, his muscles tensed. He had trained for this his entire life. Marine Commander Nathan Price's boarding teams were hitting Zenth vessels that had been disabled but not destroyed. Human soldiers in powered armor magnetically locked to enemy hulls and cut their way inside. They moved through the corridors with weapons ready, overwhelming defenders who had never experienced close combat. The Zenth soldiers were tall and strong by their species' standards. But they came from a low-gravity world. Nathan's Marines were shorter and stockier, built for Earth's crushing gravity. When they collided in the corridors, the humans won every time. Secure the bridge, then move to engineering, Nathan ordered over the combat net. His team moved methodically through the Zenth ship, clearing each section. The enemy soldiers tried to fight back, but they had never trained for this kind of brutal close-range battle. Back at the Spire of Dominion, General Kraith watched his fleet being destroyed. In less than 2 hours, he had lost 60 ships. The humans had only lost 3. This wasn't a battle. It was a massacre. He tried to call for reinforcements, but his communication systems were down. He tried to retreat, but human ships blocked every escape route. He finally understood what the Council had missed. Humans weren't just another species. They were apex predators from a nightmare world, and they had brought that violence to space. Victoria Shaw's stealth team disabled the Spire's defensive weapons. The massive fortress had cannons that could destroy entire fleets, but they relied on computer targeting systems. Victoria's electronic warfare experts hacked into those systems and shut them down. The Spire of Dominion, which had stood for 300 years as a symbol of Zenth power, was now defenseless. Admiral Ryan gave the order, and 50 human ships opened fire at once. Kinetic rounds tore through the fortress like it was made of paper. General Kraith found himself trapped in a command center that was falling apart around him. Emergency lights flickered. Alarms screamed. His staff ran in panic, and outside the windows he could see human ships moving with cold precision, destroying everything. The news of the Battle of Arcturus spread across the galaxy faster than light. Admiral Ryan had made sure of that. Every moment of the battle had been recorded and broadcast on every communication channel. The entire galaxy watched as humanity's fleet destroyed the Zenth Collective's Central Command in 4 hours. On Olympus Prime, the Galactic Council emergency session was chaos. Ambassador Quellen stood at his podium, his blue skin darker with anger. His 4 arms gestured wildly as he spoke. "This is an act of war," Quellen shouted. "The humans attacked without Council approval. They have violated every treaty about proportional response. They destroyed a major military installation. They must be sanctioned immediately." But the other Council members were quiet. They had all watched the battle footage. They had seen human ships move with impossible agility. They had seen weapons that could punch through any shield. They had seen a fleet that appeared from nowhere, perfectly coordinated, devastating in its efficiency. Director Venshara, the crystalline being who led the council, stood to speak. Her rainbow colors seemed dimmer than usual. "The humans claim they were responding to the destruction of the Horizon Dawn. They say we abandoned their distress call." "The Zenth incident was weeks ago," Quellen protested. "That ship violated Zenth space. The humans had no right to retaliate." Nina Foster stood in the observer section. She was the human intelligence officer who had been watching the council for months. Now she stepped forward and activated a holographic display. Her permission to speak had not been granted, but she spoke anyway. "The Horizon Dawn was in neutral space," Nina said calmly. "Here are the navigation records. The Zenth attacked without provocation. Here is our distress call, received by this council. Here is the council's response, refusing assistance. Here are the bodies of 43 children who died while you debated politics." Images appeared above the council chamber. Dead children, burned corridors. The final moments of the Horizon Dawn. Every council member could see what they had allowed to happen. "We asked for your protection," Nina continued. "We followed your laws. We trusted your justice system. You failed us, so we protected ourselves. That is not aggression. That is survival." She pulled up more data. "The Zenth have raided 17 human colonies in the past year. Over 600 civilians dead. Every time we complained, you told us to be patient. You told us the Zenth had rights. What about our rights? What about the right to live?" The council chamber was silent. Some members looked ashamed. Others looked afraid. All of them understood that something fundamental had changed. Humans were no longer the weak newcomers who could be dismissed. Nina played one more piece of footage. It showed Admiral Ryan addressing his fleet before the battle. His words were simple and direct. "We don't want war. We want to live in peace. But if the galaxy thinks we're weak, they'll keep killing us. Today we prove that there are consequences. Today we show them that human lives matter." Ambassador Quellen tried to regain control. "This doesn't change the facts. The humans have committed an illegal military action. They must face punishment." Nina turned to face him directly. You want to punish us? Then try. We have 300 warships, and what you saw at Arcturus is just the beginning. We can build more. We can fight longer. We come from a death world that tried to kill us for millions of years. We survived. Do you really think you can stop us? The threat was clear. Earth was now a major military power, whether the Council liked it or not. They could accept this new reality, or they could face war with an enemy that had just proven its capability. Back at Luna Station, Admiral Ryan monitored the Council's reaction through secure channels. He was in contact with Earth's government, the President and the military leadership who had authorized Operation Silent Thunder. They were watching the diplomatic situation carefully. The Council is divided, Nicole Grant reported. Quellen wants sanctions, but half the member species are refusing. They saw our fleet and they're scared. Ryan nodded. Fear was useful, but it wasn't enough. What about the other powers? The ones outside the Council? Amy Sullivan brought up a star map showing independent systems and minor empires. They're all watching. Some are impressed, some are worried, but none of them are threatening us. I think they're waiting to see what the Council does. Brandon White had been analyzing the supply situation. Sir, we can maintain our current fleet deployment for 8 months. After that, we'll need to rotate ships back for maintenance, but we have enough resources to fight a sustained war if necessary. Ryan considered the options. Operation Silent Thunder had been a success. The Zenth were broken. The galaxy knew humans were strong. But this was just the beginning. Now came the hard part, turning military victory into political security. Captain Amanda Clark returned to Luna Station with General Kraith as her prisoner. The Zenth commander was transferred to a secure facility where he would face trial for war crimes. The evidence against him was overwhelming. Sensor logs, communication records, and testimony from survivors all proved that he had ordered attacks on civilian vessels. The trial was held on Earth, broadcast across the galaxy. Prosecutors showed footage of every raid, every murdered colonist, every distress call that the Zenth had ignored. They showed the Horizon Dawn's final moments in detail, making sure everyone understood what Kraith had done. The defense tried to argue that Kraith was following orders, that the raids were necessary for Zenth security. But the prosecution had recordings of Kraith laughing about human deaths. They had messages where he called humans insects that needed to be exterminated. The verdict took 3 days. General Kraith was found guilty of crimes against humanity. The sentence was life imprisonment in a maximum security facility. Justice had been served, but it wouldn't bring back the dead. Lieutenant Victoria Shaw was promoted to commander for her role in the battle. She had disabled the Zenth communication network perfectly, giving the fleet the advantage they needed. Now she was training more stealth teams, preparing for future operations. We proved we can fight, Victoria told her new recruits. But we need to stay sharp. The galaxy is dangerous, and there are other threats out there besides the Zenth. Marine Commander Nathan Price received the Silver Star for his leadership during the boarding operations. His teams had captured 31 enemy ships with minimal casualties. But Nathan didn't think about medals. He thought about the soldiers who hadn't come home. Across human space, the mood was complicated. People celebrated the military victory. They felt pride that humanity had proven itself strong. But they also mourned the losses. The Horizon Dawn was gone. 600 colonists had died before the battle, and 147 crew members had given their lives at Arcturus. Memorial services were held on every human world. The president spoke at Earth's main ceremony, honoring all those who had died. "We are not a warlike people," she said. "But we will defend ourselves. We will protect our colonies. And we will never again trust others to value human lives. The Zenth Collective sued for peace within a month. Their empire was in chaos. They had lost their central command, most of their fleet, and their reputation as a power to be feared. The peace treaty was harsh. The Zenth had to pay reparations to every human colony they had raided. They had to surrender territory. And they had to accept human observers monitoring their military. Other species took notice. Trade delegations from dozens of worlds arrived at Earth. Some wanted to form alliances. Others wanted to buy human technology. All of them treated human diplomats with respect now. The Council finally made its decision 3 months after the battle. Director Ven Shara announced it in a formal session. The Council recognizes that the human response to the Zenth raids was justified under the principle of self-defense. We acknowledge our failure to provide assistance when requested, and we offer humanity full membership in the Council, including a permanent seat on the Security Directorate. It was unprecedented. No species had ever been granted full Council membership so quickly. But the Council understood political reality. Humanity was strong enough to be a threat if excluded, valuable enough to be an asset if included. Ambassador Quellen resigned in protest. His replacement was a younger Vextar named Sulian, who understood the new situation better. Sulian approached Nina Foster privately after the announcement. "Many of us underestimated your species," Sulian admitted. "We saw Deathworlders and thought of barbarians. We were wrong. You are formidable." Nina accepted the apology but didn't forget the past. "We didn't want to be formidable. We wanted to be safe. You forced us to become strong by refusing to help us. Remember that." Admiral Ryan was offered a position as Earth's representative on the Council's military committee. He accepted, knowing that humans needed a voice in galactic security decisions. But he also made sure Earth's fleet remained strong and ready. "We have peace now," Ryan told his officers. "But it's peace through strength. The 5 years after the Battle of Arcturus, the galaxy looked very different. Humanity had secured its place among the stars, not as subordinates but as equals. Earth's blue and green banner now flew on the Galactic Council alongside the ancient emblems of species that had ruled space for thousands of years. Admiral Ryan Cooper sat in his office on Olympus Prime, reading reports from across human space. He was older now, his hair completely gray, but his eyes were still sharp. As Earth's representative on the Council's Security Directorate, he had helped reshape galactic military policy. The old rules that protected aggressors were gone, replaced by laws that actually defended innocent species. His assistant knocked and entered. "Sir, the memorial dedication ceremony begins in an hour. The transport is ready." Ryan stood and put on his dress uniform. Today was important. After years of planning, humanity was unveiling a monument to remember the Horizon Dawn and all the victims of Zenth aggression. The ceremony took place in space, at the exact coordinates where the colony ship had been destroyed. Dozens of ships gathered, forming a circle around a new structure that floated in the void. It was a massive crystalline monument, 30 meters tall, with the names of every victim carved into its surface. Captain Jake Morrison's name was there, Commander Lisa Brennan, who had sent the final distress call, young Danny Hayes, Medical Officer Helen Carter, all 200 people who had died because the Council chose politics over lives. Commander Lisa Brennan stood near the monument in her uniform. She was one of 37 people who had survived the Horizon Dawn, rescued by Nathan Price's Marines during the battle's aftermath. She had been unconscious in an escape pod, her life support nearly depleted. Now she commanded a destroyer in Earth's fleet. "They didn't die in vain," Lisa said quietly, looking at the names. "Their deaths woke humanity up. They showed us we couldn't depend on others for protection." Ryan nodded. "Every person on this monument is a reason we built our fleet, a reason we fought back. We remember them all." The ceremony included representatives from multiple species. Even some Zenth attended, members of their new government who wanted to show respect. The collective had collapsed after the war, replaced by a democratic federation that genuinely wanted peace with humanity. President Sarah Martinez of Earth gave the dedication speech. She had been elected 3 years ago on a platform of maintaining military strength while pursuing diplomacy. Her words echoed across space, broadcast to billions. "We gather here to remember 200 souls who called for help and were ignored," Sarah said. "They represent everyone who has ever been dismissed, everyone told their lives didn't matter, everyone abandoned by those who should have protected them. Today, we promise that will never happen again. Not to humans. Not to anyone." The monument's lights activated, sending beams into space that could be seen from light years away. It would shine forever, a beacon and a warning. After the ceremony, Ryan met with other council security directors. The group included military leaders from 9 different species, all working together to prevent future conflicts. It was strange to see former adversaries cooperating, but the Battle of Arcturus had changed everyone's perspective. Director Sullian of the Vextar approached Ryan. The young ambassador had become a genuine friend over the years. "Your people have taught the galaxy important lessons about strength and justice. We're better for it." Ryan appreciated the sentiment, but he remained cautious. "We taught the galaxy that we'll defend ourselves, that's all. We're not trying to dominate anyone." "I know," Sullian replied. "That's why other species trust you. You could have used your military power to conquer territory. Instead, you used it to establish fairness." It was true. After the war, humanity had been offered control of former Zenth worlds. They had declined, instead helping those planets establish their own governments. Earth wanted security, not empire. Commander Amy Sullivan had taken over fleet operations when Chris Baldwin retired. She coordinated the defense of 73 human colonies and maintained alliance agreements with 18 other species. The network of mutual defense treaties meant that any attack on Earth would bring retaliation from multiple powers. "We've built something strong," Amy told Ryan during a strategic review. "Not just a military, but a system where our safety is tied to the safety of our allies. That's sustainable." Colonel Brandon White, now a general, managed the logistics that made everything possible. Human shipyards produced vessels for other species. Human technology was shared with allies. Trade flowed freely, bringing wealth to colonies that had once struggled. Nicole Grant ran expanded intelligence operations, monitoring threats before they could develop. Her network of agents and sensors covered much of known space. She had prevented 3 potential conflicts by providing early warning and helping negotiate peaceful solutions. "Knowledge is power," Nicole liked to say. "The more we understand about potential threats, the better we can protect our people." The secret shipyards were no longer secret. Everyone knew about the Neptune yards now. But instead of being a source of fear, they were seen as a legitimate defensive industry. Other species even sent engineers to study human ship design. Patricia Stone had become famous across the galaxy for her propulsion systems. She now taught at a university on Mars, training the next generation of engineers. Her students came from multiple species, all wanting to learn from the woman who had revolutionized space travel. Gregory Mason continued weapons development, but his focus had shifted. He now designed defensive systems to protect colonies from pirates and raiders. His kinetic weapons had been so effective that several other species had requested permission to build similar systems. Captain Amanda Clark was promoted to admiral and given command of the Third Fleet. She patrolled the Outer Rim, protecting new colonies and responding to distress calls. Her ship, the Earth's Resolve, had become legendary. Pirates fled when they detected her signature. Amanda never forgot her sister Sarah, who had died on the Horizon Dawn. Every time she answered a distress call, every time she protected civilians, she did it in her sister's memory. Lieutenant Commander Victoria Shaw ran the Stealth Operations Division. Her ships mapped unexplored regions and kept watch on potentially hostile powers. The information they gathered helped Earth anticipate problems and respond appropriately. Marine General Nathan Price trained security forces for multiple species. His combat methods had proven so effective that aliens came to Earth specifically to learn from him. He was tough on his students, but fair, pushing them to be their best. The graduates of Nathan's Academy spread across the galaxy, carrying human tactical knowledge with them. They became the core of new defense forces on dozens of worlds. Dr. Karen Phillips continued her research on species psychology. She now advised the Council on how to prevent conflicts by understanding cultural differences. Her work had helped avoid several wars by explaining why different species reacted to situations differently. Earth itself had changed. The planet was more prosperous than ever. Trade brought wealth. Alliance brought security. And the knowledge that humanity could defend itself brought confidence. People no longer feared that the next Zenth would destroy their colonies. But humans hadn't forgotten where they came from. Every school on Earth and her colonies taught about the Horizon Dawn. Children learned about Jake Morrison and his crew. They learned about the Council's failure and humanity's response. They learned that strength was necessary, but using that strength wisely was even more important. New colony ships left Earth every month, carrying people to distant stars. But these ships were different from the Horizon Dawn. They traveled with military escorts. They had better weapons and shields. And they knew that if they called for help, the entire human fleet would respond. Commander Lisa Brennan eventually got her own colony ship command. The vessel was named Horizon Remembered, a tribute to the ship she had nearly died on. But this ship was twice as large, better armed, and supported by a fleet that had proven itself in battle. On her first voyage, Lisa stood on the bridge and thought about Jake Morrison. He had died trying to save his people. He had sent the message that started everything. His sacrifice had not been wasted. "Course laid in for the Sirius colonies," her navigator reported. "Escort fleet confirms ready." Lisa looked at her crew. They were young and eager, excited for the future. They didn't live in fear anymore. They lived in a galaxy where human lives mattered, where distress calls were answered, where the weak were protected. "Take us out," Lisa ordered. "Let's build something worth protecting." The ships jumped to hyperspace, heading toward new worlds and new opportunities. Behind them, Earth's defense fleet stood watch. Admiral Ryan and his officers monitored sensors for any threat. Commander Amy coordinated patrol routes. General Brandon managed supply lines. Nicole Grant gathered intelligence. Everything worked together like a well-oiled machine. Humanity had learned from the past and built a better future. On Olympus Prime, the Galactic Council met to discuss trade agreements and border disputes. But the atmosphere had changed. No species was dismissed anymore. No distress call was ignored. The rules that had allowed the Horizon Dawn to die were gone, replaced by laws that actually protected the innocent. Ambassador Sullian represented the Vextar in these discussions. He often worked with Earth's diplomatic team, forging compromises and building consensus. The galaxy was learning to cooperate instead of compete. Director Venshara had been replaced by a younger crystalline being named Theron. The new council leader believed in the reforms that humanity had pushed for. Under Theron's leadership, the council actually enforced its laws instead of ignoring them for political convenience. Admiral Ryan prepared for retirement. After years of service, he wanted to return to Earth and spend time with his grandchildren. But before he left, he gave one final speech to the council. "When I first came here, humanity was dismissed as primitives from a death world. We were told to accept our place and be grateful for whatever scraps of respect we received. But we refused. We demanded to be treated as equals. And when that was denied, we took equality by force." He looked around the chamber at representatives from dozens of species. "That shouldn't have been necessary. Justice should not require violence, but sometimes it does. Sometimes the only way to be heard is to make yourself impossible to ignore. Humanity is strong now. We have proven ourselves in battle, but our goal was never conquest. Our goal was security, safety for our people, the right to exist without fear. These are not radical demands. These are basic rights that every species deserves. I hope the galaxy has learned from what happened. I hope no other species has to do what we did. But if they do, I hope they succeed. Because a galaxy where some species matter more than others is a galaxy that deserves to be changed. The council gave Ryan a standing ovation. Even his former opponents recognized that he had made the galaxy better. Ryan returned to Earth and retired to a small house near the ocean. He spent his days walking on the beach, watching the waves and playing with his grandchildren. But he kept a communication device nearby just in case. Once in a while, he received updates from Amy or Nicole or Amanda. The fleet was doing well. The colonies were safe. No major threats had emerged. Everything he had fought for was secure. On the 5th anniversary of the Battle of Arcturus, Ryan attended a celebration at Luna Station. Veterans gathered to remember the battle and honor those who had fallen. It was emotional, but also hopeful. "We changed the galaxy," Commander Chris Baldwin said during the ceremony. He had come out of retirement for the event. "We proved that Deathworlders aren't just survivors. We're leaders. We're protectors. We're the ones who stand up when others won't." Ryan raised his glass in a toast. "To the horizon dawn, to everyone who died so we could learn, to everyone who fought so we could win, and to the future, where no one will ever dismiss a human distress call again." The crowd echoed his words. They drank to the fallen and the living. They celebrated what had been achieved and looked forward to what would come. Somewhere in space, the monument to the horizon dawn continued to shine. Its light reached across the galaxy, an eternal reminder of what happened when the weak were abandoned and how they rose to become strong. Humanity had earned its place among the stars, not through submission or patience, but through courage and determination. They had shown the galaxy that Deathworlders were not to be dismissed. They had proven that sometimes the prey becomes the predator. And they had built a future where that would never be necessary again, because justice and respect were given freely to all species, not just the powerful ones. The galaxy was better for it, safer, more fair, more just. And it all started with 200 people on a colony ship who called for help and were ignored, and with the nation that decided such a thing would never happen again. A moment we appear weak. Someone will test us again. We can never let that happen. Commander Chris Baldwin took over as head of fleet operations. He continued improving human ship designs, making them faster and more powerful. Patricia Stone and Gregory Mason kept developing new weapons technology. Earth would not be caught unprepared again. Dr. Karen Phillips published her research on human psychology to the galactic community. Her work explained why Deathworlders fought differently, why they were so dangerous when threatened. It became required reading for every military academy in Council space. The message was clear. Humans were survivors. They had evolved on a planet that showed no mercy. They had brought that ruthless determination to space, and they would use it to protect their people. Years would pass before the galaxy fully adjusted to this new reality. But the Battle of Arcturus marked the moment when humanity stopped being victims. They had proven themselves strong. They had earned their place. And they had sent a message that would echo across the stars forever. Never dismiss a human distress call. Never underestimate Deathworlders, because if you do, you'll learn the hard way that some prey can bite back hard enough to kill the predator. The battle lasted 4 hours. When it ended, the Zenth fleet was gone. The Spire of Dominion was a broken ruin. 17 warships were completely destroyed. 31 more were captured by boarding teams. The rest had surrendered. Human casualties were minimal. 3 ships destroyed, 12 damaged, 147 crew members dead. Compared to what they had inflicted, it was nothing. General Kraith sat in the brig of the Earth's Resolve, a prisoner. Captain Amanda Clark came to see him. She showed him footage from the Horizon Dawn's final moments, children screaming, people begging for mercy. "You did this," Amanda said. Her voice was cold and empty. "Now you know what happens when you attack humans." The battle was over, but the message was just beginning to spread across the galaxy. Ryan thought about Jake Morrison and his crew. He thought about the 200 people who had died calling for help that never came. He thought about every human colony that lived in fear of the next raid. "Execute Operation Silent Thunder," Ryan ordered. "Show them what Deathworlders can do." The fleet jumped into hyperspace, leaving the solar system behind. They were heading to Zenth territory to deliver a message written in fire and steel. The Council had dismissed human distress calls. The Zenth had murdered human civilians. Now both would learn that there were consequences for such actions. In the quiet of his office, Ryan looked at a photo on his desk. It showed the crew of the Horizon Dawn, taken before their final mission. Happy faces, people excited to start new lives, all of them dead now because the galaxy thought humans didn't matter. "We matter now," Ryan said softly. "The whole galaxy is about to find out." Danny Hayes looked up from his station. "Sir, the Zenth are targeting our main reactor. When they fire, it'll be quick at least." Lisa sent one final message before the communications system died. She sent it to Earth, to her family, to anyone who would listen years from now. "The Council has abandoned us. The Zenth show no mercy. Remember us. Remember what was done here today." The Zenth warships opened fire. Bright energy beams crossed space and struck the Horizon Dawn. The ship's reactor exploded in a flash of light. 200 human lives ended in an instant. The debris scattered across space, floating among the stars. The Zenth ships collected what they wanted and left. No one else came. No one mourned. The Council noted the incident in their reports and moved on to other business. But the message was already traveling toward Earth, carrying the truth about what had happened and the names of those who had let it happen.